Hello everybody and welcome to the West Ham YouTube channel. You already know who I am. This is the Predicted 11 preview for West Ham versus Fulham. Listen, I'm feeling a little bit more content. Listen, I know the result against Liverpool was disappointing. We all feel that way, but it feels like for the first time in a long time, West Ham are going into a fixture as the favourites. I do believe we can impose ourselves on Fulham. I do believe there are a lot of weak areas that they've demonstrated. Obviously, Scott Parker's tried to bring in a few players to freshen up the squad to get in a little bit of quality. I do think there are still weaknesses there, and I think West Ham can exploit it. Before I get into things, make sure you like and subscribe to the West Ham YouTube channel. I've got a live stream tomorrow, which is Writer's Block Rewind, basically where we're going to look at some of the players West Ham have had over the past 20 years and who would we take and put them in this current side. That's going to be a feature throughout this month alongside the normal Writer's Blocks on Saturday, which will still be going ahead. We're going to be discussing Said Benrahma, Sebastian Haller's form, as well as potential January signings. In terms of preview content for the Fulham game, obviously you've got this one, but you have also got game changes. I'm going to start bringing in tactics board. That's going to come in from next week. I've also got another series which is going to be called Creating Famous West Ham Goals, where I take some of the most famous West Ham goals over the past 20 years, which is kind of relevant to my age, and giving it a go myself. And I'll be filming that with the new equipment, so I'm looking forward to putting that one on. But listen, I can hear you saying, shut up, let's get on with it. Let's start with Fulham's predicted lineup. Now, first and foremost, Areola in goal. Brought in on PSG on a loan deal, very astute from Scott Parker. He replaces Rodak, who's a regular in the Championship. I haven't seen too much of Areola to suggest he's been an incredible signing. Listen, I think he offers good shot stopping ability. He's played at the highest level. He's played in the Champions League. It is a good bit of experience to have. I think they're going to need him, particularly this season, in terms of his leadership and really sorting out that back four, because at times they've looked at C. I do believe West Ham can get at them on Saturday. And there are ways of pulling them apart. So he's going to be important. I also believe in terms of his shot stopping, he has been very, very impressive. But again, if the defence can't stop West Ham's attack, he's going to be under a lot of pressure. So I expect him to be on the receiving end of some of West Ham's attacking play. Onto the right back situation. Again, another new signing, Aina. He's come in. Obviously, he scores his goal against West Brom. Really, really impressive coming in off that right-hand side and cutting in onto his left. Fantastic finish. In terms of his overall play, he's going to bomb on it. And Scott Parker really likes to push his fullbacks on and support the attacking players as well. Obviously, we know there's Mitro in the box. But again, they kind of play with that inverted style of having Lookman coming in quite central and Bobby Reid coming central as well. So again, expect deliveries from him. Also expect it from Anthony Robinson. But I'm looking forward to seeing him. I haven't seen too much of these Fulham players. They are complete new entities for the Premier League. So I guess there's that kind of adaptation stage. But he's been certainly quite impressive from Fulham in an attacking sense. On that right-hand side of the centre-back pairing, you've got Anderson, comes in from Lyon. Again, another new sign that is trying to acclimatise to the Premier League. Again, haven't seen too much of it. In terms of a weakness of that Fulham back four, it is positioning. They can get caught quite flat-footed, particularly with teams that like to play in behind. You'd be looking at West Ham to kind of exploit that. But unfortunately, again, another unknown entity. You'd have to say that in terms of bringing in Areola, they brought in Tete as well. They brought in Anderson. You've got Champions League experience. And that's going to be important for Fulham, particularly if they're going to be relegation contenders. They've got to bring in experience. They're going to organise that back four. They will be happy with that result against West Brom, but it was more of an impressive attacking performance. Less so of a defensive performance. So they will be under a lot of pressure against West Ham. I expect our 4-3 to cause them quite a few issues, and it'll be interesting for me to see how they contend with it. I don't want to butcher this guy's name. I think it's Adara Bayoyo. Again, I think he was on loan at Blackburn last season, was a regular for them, comes from Manchester City. I believe West Ham are also looking at him. Very, very similar to this entirety of the back four. I haven't seen too much of him. Again, I suppose there is that acclimatization stage with him and Anderson at the back. He's brought both of them in, and that should say everything that you need to know about Scott Parker's side at the moment. He's taken out Hector, he's taken out Ream. A lot of the goals were their responsibility. There's a lot of disorganisation in terms of being flat-footed, in terms of not dealing with the deliveries. I don't believe they were tested in the same way against West Brom. It's going to be a different proposition against West Ham, who will use set pieces, who will push the wing-backs on to create deliveries for the likes of Sebastian Haller. So, again, it's an unknown entity for me. I'm interested to see how they deal with it. From what I understand, he is highly rated And he's obviously now gone to Fulham. Now, someone that I do know a little bit about, which is nice for me in a kind of predicted 11 preview, is Anthony Robinson. And I've been really impressed with him, not only from what I saw at Wigan and particularly when West Ham were looking at him as an attacking fullback when we thought we were going to play with 4 at the back, but particularly at Fulham at the moment. Obviously, it's a style of Scott Parker's play to push on Ania and Robinson. And again, a lot of his delivery has been superb. He's created a lot of chances for Fulham. He is their attacking outlet. I mean, of course, it suits his style of play. And listen, it is going to leave spaces in behind for West Ham to exploit. But I do believe he is going to be a real problem area. And it is going to be up to the likes of Soufal to really protect Balbuena. Down that left-hand side for Fulham, they're going to have Lookman, they're going to have Robinson. They are going to bomb on and work together. So, I mean, nullifying Robinson is a way of nullifying Fulham's threat, who like to use width to get deliveries in and create chances. So definitely watch out for him. Now, here's the midfield for Fulham, and it is one of the most interesting areas. And I haven't watched too much of Fulham this season, so it was surprising for me to see how they've set up. They've brought in Lamina, first and foremost. They've brought Lamina in on loan. Now, naturally, you'd think with a team like Fulham, newly promoted, they would look to be a little bit more defensive orientated, but it isn't really Scott Parker's play. I've put centre mid. So Lamina will look a bit of a pivot in this 3-man midfield, in this 4-3-3, but he won't play like that. He'll play a little bit more pushed up. They'll push up the defence as well. And he'll sit kind of in front of it, but again, as a supporting factor to the 2 other centre midfielders. So again, you would see it very much as a holding midfielder. I see him very much playing central, keeping the ball and trying to distribute to the wing backs that are pushing on. So I like Lamina as a player. He's athletic. He'll drive with the ball. But in this system, he's not been asked to do that. He's asked to essentially distribute and play to the fullbacks that are pushing on. So listen, I think it's an area that West Ham can get at. Again, with a 2-man midfield, I'd never suggest West Ham to push on and pressurise. But I think Fulham, particularly with their midfield, aren't defensive orientated at all. There's opportunities for Souček in particular as a late runner into the box and a late runner in attack to get in behind and capitalise on the space that they are going to vacate, which of course I will discuss when we get to the West Ham lineup. And Guisa, brought back into the side from his loan at Villarreal. I am slightly impressed with him. I have put centre midfield. He operates more as a number 8. He drives with the ball. He's got a good passing range. He's looking to play the ball, particularly into Kearney, who's operating as a 10 in this system. He's the ball carrier in this Fulham midfield. If you nullify him, you're nullifying the majority of Fulham's central play, which they do like to exploit, particularly in that final third. Give the ball in central and have runners from midfield such as Anguissa and Kearney moving with the ball and linking up with Mitro. So if West Ham can nullify Anguissa, and in particular if they can nullify Kearney, you're taking away one of the main elements of Fulham's play in terms of the chance creation. And listen, I'm not going to be too negative towards Fulham because I think in an attacking sense, Scott Parker has got the right ideas. But I think West Ham, when we particularly revert to a 5-4-1, we're going to make it difficult. We're going to pack the midfield. It's going to be hard for players like Anguissa and Kenny to get on the ball and start linking up with the central striker, which leads me to the number 10 for this system, which is Tom Kearney. I like Tom Kearney as a player. Fantastic passing range. A great shot on him. You know, when we saw him in the Premier League last time, he operated more as a 10. In the playoff final, he sat as a holding midfielder. He is versatile, but in this system, he will play a little bit further forward. I think it's going to be really, really difficult for him. If I'm honest, I do believe the likes of Declan Rice can deal with him quite handily. He isn't quick. He won't make runs in behind. He looks to link up with the forward men. The one criticism that Scott Parker has had of his side, in particular other neutrals as well, is the fact that kind of attacking midfielder isn't making runs in behind, isn't taking shots on goal. So he is, to some extent, quite ineffective within this system. I expect West Ham to deal with him quite handily, if I'm honest. Whether we play the double pivot, whether we play the 2 holding midfielders, it isn't really a threat. There isn't really something to look for. And I could regret saying that on Saturday, but I believe a lot of Fulham's play does come through the width. So I'm not too concerned from a midfield perspective, but nonetheless, he is a good player. He can link up play. It is more when you start to look at Fulham's front line. Now, in a 4-3-3, you'd expect them to be running onto the ball, running in behind. Scott Parker hadn't really asked that of his team. And he's obviously brought in Lookman from Leipzig, who I think is a fantastic player. He's had the most shots in the team so far this season, despite playing less games. He'll play a little bit more central. He will come off that left. He'll look to link up with Mitrovic And Mitrovic's role within this team has completely changed from what we've seen previously. Kind of used as a target man in previous seasons where he's got a lot of his goals. I think the emphasis for Scott Parker in using Mitrovic for Fulham is to link up play with these other two attackers, to link up play with the two attacking midfielders, whether it's Kearney or Anguissa moving from an 8. His role has changed, but listen, Lookman for me gives them a different look. I think earlier in the season, Fulham was struggling to get in behind and create chances. A player with genuine pace and dribbling ability that can link up on the left-hand side, that can link up and go in behind Mitrovic from knockdowns. It gives us something to contend with. So again, it's easy enough on the outset to say, should West Ham press Fulham? Should we impose ourselves? But you have to look out for this type of attack where they do come central, where they do work off that central striker in Mitrovic, and they will try and get in behind. And we know that Balbuena has struggled with pace previously against Heung-min Son, against Raheem Sterling. Again, completely different caliber of player, but that kind of mold of a player that likes to get in behind. We saw it with Jota as well on Saturday. So for me, he is a key danger man for them. I'm going to quickly skirt over Mitrovic because I do believe there's a more significant point to be made. Bobby Cordova-Reid, I like him as a player. We've seen him really as a central striker. In this system, he's kind of playing off that right, but he's allowed to come central because you've got Ania pushing on as well. His role very, very similar to Lookman. He'll look to link up with Mitrovic, who's going to be the provider in this system, and try and get beyond that West Ham back three, who I think are going to be very resolute. I think it's going to be difficult for Fulham in order to do that, and it will depend mostly on the positioning of Declan Rice and Souček and how David Moyes sets up in this side. Again, if we put a low block on against Fulham, which I highly doubt given the difference in quality and systems between the two teams, I think we completely nullify Fulham. We make it really difficult for them. An argument that maybe if Fulham can counter-attack us, he could get in behind and he'll look to work off Mitrovic. So again, there's a threat, but I'm not too concerned. The goal record, from Reid and Lookman doesn't suggest that they are going to be too pivotal on Saturday. But I do believe this man is a huge threat. And listen, I've explained that the system has changed. He looks to link up play with those centre midfielders. In instances where he can get on the end of crosses, this guy's absolutely lethal. And I believe that Scott Parker isn't really using Mitrovic to his full potential. When Mitrovic is getting on the end of crosses, when he's trying to run in behind, I think he's absolutely brilliant. And I really think that given his goals in this division before, the goals in the Championship, he is a good finisher as well. It could have been really problematic for West Ham to have a player like that moving in behind. Again, like I've said, though, in this system, he has become the provider. If West Ham can nullify the width, if we can stop those fullbacks from pushing on and getting deliveries into the box, I think Mitrovic is going to be frustrated. He's going to have a back three to contend with, two centre midfielders to try and navigate past. It's going to be really, really difficult. And I think in this system, particularly the way West Ham are going to set up, we could nullify him, but don't rule him out, because I just think in general his link-up play and his ability to get on the end of crosses means that he will remain a threat throughout the game. Now, on to West Ham. Like we've discussed already, it was kind of disappointing that result. I think in context, when we look back at the game, losing to Liverpool 2-1 isn't the worst of things to have happened. West Ham have accumulated a decent amount of points from the fixtures, but I do believe, not in terms of the system works, that's absolutely fine. But in terms of how West Ham approach Fulham, how we put the pressure on them, how we put the onus on them, we can exploit them. We have to be offensive-minded. We have to move with pace. I think there's loads of opportunities here for West Ham to score goals. I will get into it, but ultimately Moyes, he can't revert to that low block that we've had against Manchester City and Liverpool. We have to be aggressive. We have to get at Fulham, and we have to exploit their weaknesses, because there are plenty of weaknesses in terms of their defence. So let's get on to the basics. We say this every week. Listen, Fabianski in goal for me. He didn't have too much luck, particularly with that Liverpool front line. Again, the finish from Jota was fantastic. I think he's looked very solid this season, if I'm honest. There was a couple of iffy moments last week, and I'm not sure whether it's a confidence thing or what quite has happened in terms of Fabianski. We know that Fabianski is a great shot stopper. In terms of sometimes his decision making, it does frighten me. But listen, I don't think he's going to get, has so much pressure on him as he did against Manchester City and Liverpool. I think it could be a comfortable afternoon for him, other than maybe this kind of odd run from Lookman or potentially a header from Mitrovic. Those are the key threats. But I think Fabianski will be solid. And obviously I expect him to start. Now let's go on the left-hand side. Arthur Masuaku. Now, like I've said, Fulham do push up their fullbacks, and this gives a real opportunity for someone like Masuaku to get in behind. listen, I don't think Fulham's threat from wide areas, albeit it is a common tactic for them to use. I think we can nullify it, if I'm perfectly honest. I think, the way West Ham set up, if we set up with four nows, we've got someone to try and push back their fullback. I'd be looking at Arthur, in particular with this game, to be offensive-minded, to get beyond four nows, and to put quality delivery into the box. He was unlucky not to find Allaire for the first goal. Obviously, it fell to Pablo four nows. But they are going to vacate space. Left-handed, but someone like, Arthur is quick enough. He's got the quality of the delivery to get beyond. And like we saw against Liverpool, we need to start working to Sebastian Haller's strengths. There are arguments that in terms of his overall play, he isn't doing enough. But in a game where we should have the impetus, the game where we should be on top, Arthur, for me, and Soufal for that matter, have to push on, have to be effective. And I expect him to do so nonetheless. Aaron Creswell on this left-hand side, it's been really impressive for me. I've been a massive critic of him, if I'm honest. I think when he was at left back, he got forward too often, and his kind of positional awareness left space in behind, and he didn't have the pace to deal with it. At centre back, he looks like a different proposition, and we're still seeing him going forward and putting quality deliveries, which we know he's had in his locker. But obviously, we're quite reticent to give him any praise for that when he's vacating space in behind. I think Arthur down that side and Fornals gives him a little bit of sort of defensive security when he's making that kind of inverted run. I think there's an opportunity here, if I'm perfectly honest, from set pieces and in particular from him playing balls over the top to get in behind Fulham at times where they're isolated. You tend to have two centre backs and Lamina, who's not really playing as a pivot. No full-backs in terms of when they push on. I think Creswell can find the quality delivery to try and get him behind on that left-hand side, link up with Arthur Masuaku, and exploit the space that they're inevitably going to leave. Down the middle, Angelo Ogbonna. I think the biggest contest for him is obviously Alexander Mitrovic. It will become an aerial battle in that sense. And you back Angelo Ogbonna, he's phenomenal in the air. It really is his game. It's bread and butter to him. So I'm confident that he can deal with him. Again, you're probably looking at the other two centre-backs in terms of dealing with Lookman and Reed, dealing with pace. And obviously, let's get onto it now with Fabian Balbuena. I actually don't think he's been that bad. I know people on social media are pointing out the fact that he does get exploited by pace. I think that much is true. And obviously, Soufal is going to have to support him down Fulham's left side. But I think in the air, he's strong. My only issue is that Fulham won't look to play in Lookman or Reed in the air. They'll look to play him into feet. And that's where Balbuena could struggle. So you're looking at Soufal again to support him. He did it very, very well against Leicester from memory. So if he can do that, if he can nullify Fulham, particularly from wide areas, I don't think Lookman's going to get the service to worry him. I think centrally, if West Ham playing a low block as well, I'll back him every day, particularly with Rice and Souček in front of him. And that obviously brings me on to Soufal, who I'm going to identify as actually as a game changer in this game. And the reason why I say this is he has to deal with Anthony Robinson. Anthony Robinson is their current attacking threat. He loves to push them on Scott Parker, those fullbacks. And Soufal, if he can nullify him, you take out that service, particularly to the front men that come inverted. You've really got that kind of front three. You also take out the Mitrovic delivery. And I think when Mitrovic can get onto the end of the ball, he's lethal. And his positioning and his heading ability is quality. So it is up to Soufal to nullify that. Equally, I do believe, and as I will discuss, trying to get quality delivery into Sebastian Haller, who at times was isolated against Liverpool, is crucial to West Ham scoring goals in this game. You're looking at both Soufal, you're looking at Arthur Masuaku, putting quality delivery to Sebastian Haller, as he has shown against Manchester City. He showed against Tottenham as well. If he can do this in this game, I expect both him and Arthur to be a lot more offensive. And I do believe the space that they vacate in behind is going to give West Ham the opportunity to do so. Midfield speaks for itself as ever. Declan Rice. Listen, I expect Declan Rice against the Fulham midfield that is going to push up, irrespective of their quality or irrespective of their pacing behind. You'll look for Mitrovic particularly to maybe move into that position in front of the defence, which is kind of what Declan and Souček need to deal with, and link up with the likes of Tom Cairney, links up with the likes of Anguissa. It is going to be difficult in some aspects for him to deal with that midfield. But I do believe that West Ham, with Souček next to him, can deal with it. We can be defensively solid enough. And you would back Declan Rice in terms of that transition from defence to attack, which I've said he's been so positive at doing, to exploit the space in behind, because Fulham do leave gaps in that midfield, even with Lamina as a centre midfielder sitting in behind the 8 and the 10. So again, he's going to have to be switched on. I don't expect him really to have to deal with too much the likes of Anthony Robertson or cover for the defence. It is just dealing with that central threat of Fulham, and in particular that number 10. Souček, I actually believe, from an offensive point of view, could be a real game changer in this game as well. And the reason why I say this is Fulham massively struggle from deliveries. They can't pick up late men into the box, and that is largely because of the fact that they play that centre midfielder in Lamina too high. He doesn't play as a natural pivot. Against Leeds, they got exploited from every delivery. That cutback where Costa, I believe, come into the box and scored. It's going to be the same with Thomas Souček. He's lethal in the air. He's good from second balls. He can create chances. In terms of an offensive game, I think Souček could be pivotal, and I think he could put that Fulham defence under serious pressure, particularly since they've only played with each other for 2 or 3 games. Now, the left-hand side. Now, I'm going to go with what Moyes is going to pick, but I don't believe that this is the right thing to pick. And I know this has been a huge point of contention on social media. Pablo Fornals. Now, I think this game actually suits either Pablo Fornals or Sai Benrahma, if I'm perfectly honest. Again, you'd have to say that in a game where West Ham should have the attacking impetus, that Sai Benrahma is a perfect game to bet in within the side. But I think the way you look at Fulham, particularly with the space they vacate in front of their back four, particularly the space that Pablo Fornals could have on that left-hand side when Anya pushes up too far, I think it's a good game for him. I think he can nullify Anya. I think he can support. He can work with Arthur Masuaku to create good delivery into the box. But I do believe by Arthur providing that natural width and Pablo Fornals coming into a 10 role, he's going to find space in front of that back four. And that is where he's most comfortable. Even against Leicester, he found the space to get the ball in behind to Jarrod Bowen and Mikel Antonio. Again, you look at the game at Anfield. He came central from the knockdown from Sebastian Haller and put it past Alisson. That's where he thrives. So I'm excited to see him actually in this game, because I think he's going to get the time. He's going to get the space. He's going to work effectively defensively, as we know he can do. But for the same reason that I think he'd be a good addition, I think Sai Benrahma would be a great addition. He's obviously scored a goal against Fulham in the Carabao Cup. Again, their weakness in not having a real deep line pivot does create space in front of that back four. That does look weak and does look flat-footed at times, and that can't quite deal with runners in behind, which is a shame that Mikel Antonio is not playing. But I think Pablo's going to have a lot of space. I think Benrahma would have a lot of space as well, likes to come central. When you're working with this system, you've got Arthur Masuaku to create the natural width, and someone like Sai Benrahma who likes to come central anyway, and giving him space, we are going to create chances, which obviously would kind of naturally lead on to this man, and it's always a point of contention with someone like him, Sebastian Haller. Now, I'm not gonna sit here and slate him. I don't believe the performance he put in against Liverpool was good. I know people have dug up things like flick-ons that have led to chances. You could argue that. I think the argument is more so is the mobility of someone like Jarrod Bowen and Fornals being able to get in behind and latch onto them. I don't believe, I think Mikel Antonio would have a lovely job in this game. Every goal that Fulham have conceded this season has either been from a defensive lap from delivery, or the fact that they've been flat-footed and they can't deal with movement in behind. Haller isn't going to create that. What I would say, though, is that if you can play someone like Sai Benrahma, who might tend to, play wide, maybe you've got Arthur Masuaku in this side. You look at Jarrod Bowen, who definitely will look to get in behind. I think this is a game to create space for Sebastian Haller. But West Ham have to carry the ball far enough, move far enough into that Fulham final third. But I do back him in this game, particularly to have chances. I think the quality of delivery from the likes of Soufal and Masuaku will give him another chance in order to score further up the field than we saw against Liverpool. I also think that, in particular, with West Ham trying to move in behind, creating the width, and the likes of Sai Benrahma or Pablo Fornals finding space in front of that defence, you've got to back Haller's movement in that final third. And I know it is a criticism. He won't stretch defence, but his movement generally as a striker is good enough for him to get in behind or to find space in the box. It is then a question of, will he score? Can we back his finishing ability? And I would argue that you can, particularly with someone like Sebastian Haller. It's a real pivotal game for him in terms of his career at West Ham. I think if he gets a goal and he takes his chances, you can build his confidence. We'll start seeing how the system can work to affect him positively. Listen, I really want it to go well for him. I think Mikel Antonio would have been better in this game. I can't lie. I think we would have ripped Fulham apart in terms of the width we could have created, in terms of getting in behind. But I still think there are a few avenues for Sebastian Haller to score. I still think he'll be effective, particularly from set pieces, particularly from deliveries. Fulham are going to struggle. And I do expect Haller to get a goal in this game. I really do. But it does depend on how David Moyes approaches it, whether he tries to stay offensive or whether he keeps the low block that we've seen in previous games. And as ever, this man always gets in, Jarrod Bowen. Listen, I've seen a few things on social media as well saying that he should be dropped. I completely don't agree with that. I think his defensive work rate's phenomenal. I think this is the game for Jarrod Bowen to get involved in. When Fulham push up too far, when they vacate space, he'll get in behind. You know, at points with Fulham, you can see them actually get isolated with only two centre-backs and the kind of centre midfielder moving back as well. There's opportunities for him to get in behind, particularly from the counter. I expect him to be effective in this game. I expect him to try and link up with Sebastian Haller. And that's kind of another point as well I'd like to mention. You know, we're going to have to see something from Haller where he tries to play in the likes of Jarrod Bowen, because down that right-hand side, like I've said, if Soufal can nullify Anthony Robinson and he vacates that space in behind, Bowen is going to benefit. We've played against Manchester City, when we've played against Liverpool and Spurs, his defensive work rate has been so important. That's why we haven't seen the likes of goal contributions from him really since that Leicester game. This is a different ballgame. I don't think that the defensive onus on him in this game is there. I think it's more on him being an attacking presser. I think he can get him beyond. I think he can take on that flat-footed Fulham defence, and I think he can isolate them. And I'd expect the front three, whether it's Pablo Fornell, Saïd Benrahma, Haller or Bowen, to create chances and to score goals. But again, if you can nullify Fulham in terms of their width, in terms of the delivery into the box, if Souček and Weiss are disciplined in front of that back three, I think Fulham's opportunity to create it's gone, if I'm honest. There's no natural creative in that team. No player that's going to really get him beyond other than maybe Lookman, and that's in the final third. So in terms of nullifying that midfield battle, I think West Ham can do it. And I think we can counter-attack and isolate them. You know, look how many opportunities you've seen Fulham this season struggle from. Jack Grealish gave them the runaround trying to move in behind, particularly off that left-hand side when they vacate space. They're all over the place. They're at sixes and sevens. And I just think with West Ham, with just enough movement up front, just enough space in front of their defence, and from deliveries, there are so many chances for West Ham to score in this game. And I expect us to impress ourselves. I expect us to push on. And I expect us to cause them a game and nullify them. And it's interesting for me. You know, I think Moyes has shown his mettle. If I'm honest, I think he's been really positive in terms of the consistency of the system and the work rate that we've seen from the lads over the past couple of games. This is another test for me. This is a test of we've got winnable games. We've got games that we should be impressing in. And I want to see him playing a positive team, not change the system, but a team that pushes, that presses, that gets in behind and that can play a counter-attacking football, that works to our strengths and exploits the space. And we've done it against Leicester. We did it to an extent against Wolves. I think this is the perfect opportunity for West Ham. I'll be looking for us to get 2 to 3 goals in this game. Another clean sheet on top of that would be absolutely superb. If you're asking for a score prediction for this game, for me, I think I'm going to go 3-1 West Ham. I think we'll be too strong for them. I think the system will nullify them. I think our front three is going to find so much space and so many opportunities. If we're brave, and we should be brave against Fulham, we push those wing-backs on, particularly when they've nullified Anthony Robertson and Anya down those sides. I think good delivery into the box. Haller gets a couple of chances as well to score. I expect West Ham to win this game, and I expect them to score some serious goals. There could be a little switch-off, particularly in the system. There tends to be a switch-off around the 80th minute, even in games that we're winning in, even against Wolves and Leicester. So maybe they'll get a goal, maybe down Balbuena's side with someone like Lookman, but I can see it being a comfortable win for West Ham. That was an incredibly long predicted 11. If you have got this far, thank you so much. Make sure you subscribe and like the video. As I've explained, there's going to be loads more content this month. Obviously, it is lockdown. Obviously, it is hard for everybody. So we'll try and get a lot of varied content out there. And I'll start adding tactics boards for this week as well. The next video out on top of this is going to be game changes, where I'm going to look at some of the key players that I've already discussed. But listen, thanks so much for watching. And until next time, everybody, take care.